Hi everyone, Katerina here. Thank you so much for watching my video today. In this tutorial I'm going to be playing with this gorgeous mini bundle. It's a digital set I got on Craftstash and this was designed by the lovely Marta from Drop of Sunshine. Her designs are just really so beautiful and I saw one of her live videos where she was creating something stunning with this paper. I'm not sure which shade it was, the darker or the lighter, but I instantly fell in love with it. So as I said, it comes in two different shades there, and all Marta's papers, I think, tend to come in two different shades. You see the poinsettias in there and the wooden kind of a background there as well. Also, the digital mini pack comes with a ton of sentiments, ephemera, all different framelets and backgrounds and tags. There's just so much in this bundle, honestly. I don't even have everything set out here on screen for you now. Using this gorgeous bundle today, I will be creating gift packaging ideas for cash and some gift cards. It's just such a lovely idea in a form of a wallet or a little purse. This more masculine type wallet idea came from Pinterest, where if you type in paper wallet, you will find a whole bunch of posts coming up. There's so much inspiration in there. Now, the post that I saw didn't have the pocket for the cash, it was only for gift cards, but this is so easily adjusted to whatever you want to make it for. Honestly, I absolutely love that one. And for this cute little purse, the inspiration came from one that I used to own years ago. I made a divider that is quite optional. You can remove it or leave it in, whether you want to gift cards only or gift cards and money, or money and a little friendship card. If you want to use the divider, you can. Now all the ephemera and the decorations on the purse and the wallet are coming from the same digital bundle. They both have magnet closings. So I just want to say in here, anytime I make something for anyone at all, and if it has a magnet closing, I would always include a little message just to make them aware of that, because children should not be playing with magnets just for safety. Just a little advice for you all if you work with magnets at all. And I also have a lovely bonus project coming up at the end of this video, so please stay tuned for that too. I'm using the gorgeous little cardstock to create the little purse instead of the red. However, for this one I chose to go with this gorgeous dark green. Measures 9.5 by 5 inches. On the longer side, score die at 3.25, 3.5, 6.75 and 7 inches. For the concertina folds on the sides, I'm using coordinating paper. Sometimes these are available in Lidl as well, and they match the color perfectly. They are just thinner paper. I don't want it to get too bulky, so didn't want to use the heavyweight cardstock for these. Now, the two sides will measure 5 by 3 inches. And on the 5-inch side, I'm just showing you here, you see how that there is peeking out, and this was my prototype very much, so I left for this one them a little bit shorter. 3 inches is fine. So on the 5-inch side, I'm scoring at every half an inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and 4.5. And I'm doing this on both sides for both of these pieces, because this will be folded back and forth. And then just when going to fold this into a concertina fold, and with this step I do like to take my time to make sure it's folded nicely and evenly. I like to fold it the whole piece of paper in half first and then go towards the edges from there, if that makes sense. So as for the next step, I'm going to be applying my magnets. Of course, if you want to use Velcro dots on this instead, it's absolutely fine as well. The magnets that I'm using are this very thin 0.5 millimeter, and I think it's like a 10 mil diameter. And the first one I'm applying on what will be the front of the purse, just in there. And I'm going to apply a bit of a red tape on top of that just to keep that in place. And then I fold the top of the top flap over, and that magnet will automatically snap in place with the side that it needs to go on. For the mats, I wanted to just leave a very thin border of that green cardstock there. So I cut the two pieces to 3 1/8 by 4 7/8. Just please pay attention to what way you're gluing this on, especially if the paper is directional like this one. Once we fold it up, the way the purse will be closing, this will have to be facing upwards. So you see how they are facing away from each other in here? Because this is how it will look the right way up once we have applied the sides of the purse. The mat on the top flap should measure 2 3/8 by 4 7/8, but you will see here in a moment that I've cut this to the wrong size. There was just too much of a grain showing on top of the purse once I'm closing it, so I ended up peeling this back and cutting a new piece altogether and replacing it. Sometimes a perfectionist, sometimes not. Sometimes I embrace the little mistakes, but for this one I really wanted to just cut a new piece and apply it to there. And this is the joys of this color glue. It really gives you a lot of time to play with it. Now, the next step will be adding the sides, the concertina fold sides that we just made, and this is just quite easy. Okay, so just adding a bit of that quick grab glue onto the first flap and making sure that it's facing inwards towards the center of the purse. So basically the first fold of the concertina will be lined up with the side of the purse. Now a bit of a cleanup, a little bit of a glue oozing out here and there. This is a magical tool. Now adding the glue onto the top of the flaps, both of them at the same time, and just fold what will be the front of the purse on top of that. And this is very quick grab glue. It holds on very quickly. This is the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue that I'm using for this bit. For the divider, which is quite optional, you can use 1 or 2 of these, or you don't have to use them at all. This one measures 2 3/4 by 4 3/4, and I didn't glue that in. I'm just leaving it loose in there so you can remove it or add it as you wish. To create that lovely square detail onto the bottom of the flat, I used gold mirror cardstock, and I used 2 pieces of dies to create this frame. The larger one is the smallest one of the Creative Craft products, nested square die set, inverted scallops, and the smaller one that's cut out the inside of the frame is just a little stitch detail square die that I had in my stash. The inverted scallop one measures about 1 1/4 inches, and the smaller one measured about 7/8 of an inch. Now I'm just adding glue onto the top half of this and applying it diagonally onto the bottom of the flap. These lovely poinsettias I also included in the ephemera pack created by Marta. Now, because I printed these out on a white cardstock and the white core is showing once you cut into them, and the back sides of the flowers are white as well, I don't necessarily like that look, so I decided to apply some Candied Apple Distress Oxiding to cover up all that whiteness in there, and I think it just brings these flowers to a whole new level, adding a little bit of a dimension to them again. Now I'm just adding a little bit of a dimension to these petals again by pinching them from the middle out towards to the very end of those little petals, just lengthways, just adding them a little fold in the middle line of each petal. And you can see I've cut these out in 2 different sizes, but that's again optional. And I'm just using a bit of a hot glue to glue them on top of each other, kind of offsetting them. And in the middle I'm going to add the gold rhinestone from Chloe's Creative Cards, and I think this is the Festive Fancies collection, and I used the largest ones of the gold ones in there. To add a bit of a green to those flowers, I just hand cut leaf shapes from one of those papers that I printed out, took Mowed Lawn Distress Oxiding and just covered up the stark whiteness on the sides of those leaves. I glued 2 of those together and I will be adding them underneath the flower. Now, I'm trying to decide which sentiment to use. They are also perfect. I was really struggling to decide which sentiment to use for which project, but I've decided to go with the Snowy Wishes for this one. I've added some foam pads onto the back of it, a bit of a mowed lawn onto the edges, just to bring it all together, kind of medley it in with the background there. Peel back the backing of those and deciding whether I want it straight or diagonally. I decided to go diagonally and added the flower in the other corner. And this is the 2 of them side by side. On the red one I used the poinsettia papers, on the green one I used my favorite ones, the hearts and snowflakes. I think they both look absolutely gorgeous and such a stylish way to present money or gift card or a little friendship card or just a little note to your friends or family members. Now we can move on to make our next project. And this is the more masculine type wallet, gift card / money holder. I'm using Craft cardstock in here, and this is heavyweight, 300 GSM. Of course, you don't have to, because we will be adding layers on top of this. But this one measures 10¼ by 7½ inches. And on the longer side, we're gonna score at 5 and 5¼ and I like to do this on two sides of the cardstock. Why? This will make sense in a little minute. Now on the shorter side, I'm going to score down at 4 inches. The whole way down. And now this way, if I fold it in half, I have a shorter flap and a longer one. One of them is 3½ and the other one is 4 inches long. Now with the 3½ inches on the top side of my scoreboard, I'm going to score down at 1/4 inch, just down to that horizontal score line. And then on the other side again, I'm going to score down at 10 inches, just down to that horizontal score line, not past it. Once all the scoring in here is done, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut down on that horizontal line just to the 1/4 inch line we made vertically in there. And I'm just going to release that little tab, the 1/4 inch of a tab that we'll be using to attach the back to the front of the wallet. This will all make sense in a minute. Now, I like to cut away a little wedge as well from the tab, because I don't want any bulking or anything catching in there when I'm gluing it all up together. And I just do that on the other side as well. And now I'm going to fold and burnish those two score lines that we made at 5 and 5¼ inches. Just give them a good burnish there. Now I'm going to fold this up in half. And now I'm gonna have to fold these the other way as well. So this is, you can see how the wallet is taking shape now, this point, but this is why we had to score those two lines on both sides of the wallet, because now when we folded it up, the inside of it is folding one way, while the outside of it is folding the other way. I hope I'm explaining this well. But I don't want any cracking on the cardstock, so that's why it was just the safest thing to do, to score it on both sides. Now I'm going to fold and burnish in those little tabs on both sides of the wallet. And these little tabs are the only places that I'm going to apply glue now. Now, if I'm going to close the wallet just like that, you could see that the inside of it was bowing out too much. There's a couple of things we can do to prevent that. One of them is just stretch the fibers with the bone folder, just like I did there. I didn't add any curving into the cardstock, just stretch the fibers a tiny bit to soften them up, so to speak. And now I'm adding glue onto one of those little tabs. And when I'm going to glue this together, I'm going to make sure that I'm gluing it while the wallet is closed. So basically, I'm going to glue this down in the position that it will hold when I'm going to be having the wallet closed. And I'm just taking my time in here, making sure that I'm stretching and pulling it a bit until it sits the way I want it to sit. And now I'm just going over with my bone folder, making sure the glue sticks properly before I start to work on the other side. I don't want this to start moving out of the place that I already find for it. Now, the other side again, adding the glue and making sure when I'm gluing down, the wallet is closed. So this is the position I want it to stick. And now I'm going to take my Distress Oxiding, and this is the Gather Twigs, and I'm going to distress the edges, just cutting away some of the score line that I left there. I didn't necessarily like the look of. Of course, this step, if you choose to distress, you can do before gluing the wallet together. It really doesn't matter. We will be adding mats on top of most of these places anyway. There'll be pockets and the outside of it will be decorated. I'm just going around the edges, really. I think it just finishes it off very nicely for us. The next bit that I will be working on is the little flap that will be the closing flap for our wallet, and this measures 3½ by 1½ inches, and on the 3½ side I scored down at 1¼ and 1½. And I'm going to round the edges just using my little corner rounder punch, and again going around all of it. The back of it you won't see anyway, it's only that little bit on the front that we will be seeing, because the other bit will be covered up. Now there's two pieces of cardstock that I will be using for the pockets inside of the wallet, and one of them is measuring 4¼ by 1¾ and the other one is 4¼ by 2, and this one is 4 inches by 4½, And on the 4-inch side, I scored down at 1/2 inch on both sides, and on the longer side, I scored down just on the one side at 1/2 inch, cutting away those corners. And now this will be creating a lovely pocket for us to go on to the other side of the wallet. But of course, you don't have to use this method. You can use just the other pockets on both sides, and that way you will have more pockets for more gift cards or little notes or gift tags to be sliding into those little pockets. Now, first of all, I'm going to glue this tab on onto the longer side in there. I'm adding a bit of glue, using my grid lines in there just to line up roughly in the middle as much as I can. I'm going to be using exactly the same set of magnets in here that I used earlier on when we were creating the purse. I'm going to add one of those magnets just into the middle of that flap, because it will be covered up and another piece of cardstock will be going on top of it. So I want to make sure that it's well covered up, and it's easier to do so if I'm not going too close to the edge with the magnet. Using a bit of red tape, I'm going to secure that in place, and I'm going to pop the other magnet on top of that, adding a bit of glue in the middle of that. This way I can mark where the other magnet needs to be glued. Just secure this down with a bit of red tape, and that's it so far. Ready? Now, before I'm going to decorate the outside of the wallet, I'm going to work on the inside, adding the pockets. On the right hand side of the wallet, I will be adding the 2 pieces of cardstock, one that was 2 inches, the other one was 1 3/4 inches high. And I'm just going to take a pencil here, adding a little bit of a pencil line, so I know exactly where I need to glue it once the glue is on. I'm adding the tiny bit of a glue along the sides and the bottom of the pocket. Make sure you don't add anything on the top. Okay, so now I can see where that line is, and just making sure I leave equal amounts of the cardstock on the 2 sides of the pocket. The same with this one. Little bit of a glue on 2 sides and the bottom, and I'm going to glue this towards the bottom of there's about 1/2 inch overhang between the 2 pockets. Now I'm going to take this other one, and I forgot to add the little punch in there, and my whole punch is quite worn. I need to look about getting a new one. Just trying to make my mind up which side I want the opening to be on, but I decided to go towards the middle with the opening. And this yet can hold another gift card or a little friendship card or a little note, a gift tag, a secret message, really anything that you want to give this. You can personalize this in so many ways. And now I'm just making sure that the glue is spread out very well onto those tabs and it sticks on properly before I move on to the outside of the wallet. To decorate the outside of the wallet, I'm going to be using the same pattern paper I used on the other wallet. I'm going to be putting this through my die cutting machine using this embossing folder from Creative Craft Products, and this is the wood grain one. This will add lovely texture to the paper. Now, you don't have to do this, obviously. These are gift packaging ideas, and they will be chucked in the bin, I'm sure, the day or two after Christmas. So you don't have to go into all those details. It's really up to you. I really don't mind doing that. I love going into the tiny details. So what I like to do is to cut a bigger piece of cardstock, put it through the embossing process, and then cut it down to size. I think that way I just get much better results. Now you see me cutting it down to size, which will be 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 of an inch for both the back and the front. So guys, here we are on the next day. I have to admit, I had to walk away from this and come back to it now. What I've been dreading for so long, ever since I seen other crafters this to happen to, I was worried my phone one day will stop recording, and it has, and it didn't notify me. Thankfully, it was just the very end of the decorating process, so it's nothing much that I cannot walk you through now. And please don't mind my inky fingers, I was making more poinsettias for the bonus project that is coming up now. So, the papers, as I said earlier, and I ran it through the embossing folder. There's the difference between the 2 papers before and after the embossing, And now I'm going to take that same gather twigs distress oxiding, and I just ran through it on top of the embossed parts of the paper, and it just adds lovely dimension and lovely texture to the papers. So that is what I used. I cut them down to 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 and glued it onto the back and the front of the card. I've cut out a piece of craft cardstock that measures just under 1.5 and just under 1.25, and I added it into the inside of the flap. To decorate it, the sentiment I chose is Christmas wishes and a couple of snowflakes, and on the inside I added ho ho ho. I think it's cute. Cut one snowflake in half and added it onto differing ends of the sentiment. So that's it, the wallet is ready, it's nice and cute, and now on to our bonus project! I love this one! I dare you to give a girl a purse without a matching clutch bag. I'm joking, obviously, but isn't this just the perfect set? I think it's so gorgeous, and the purse fits inside perfectly. What a wonderful way to present any gift voucher or money for under the tree. But of course, a small present would fit in there. You don't have to put a purse in there. It can be anything at all. Now today I'm going to make it to match this purse we made. So the green cardstock will measure 10 by 7 inches. On a 10-inch side I'm going to score down at 3/4 of an inch on both sides of the paper, and I'm going to turn the cardstock over and score it on the other side. In the middle I scored down at 4.5 and 5.5 inches. This piece of a cardstock measures 4 3/4 by 2 inches. On the 2-inch side I'm scoring down at 1/2 inch and 1.5. Turn it to the longer side and score down at 1 inch. Then turn it back to the shorter side again and down in the middle at 1 inches. I'm going to score down, but down only to about that 2-inch mark. It doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere in around there. And we will need 2 pieces of these cardstocks. The next piece will measure 7 by 1.5. On the 1.5 inch side, score down the middle at 3/4 of an inch, and again we will need 2 pieces of these. I've already applied the double-sided tape on the inside of these. These lovely poinsettia papers I will be using to decorate the front and the back of the clutch bag measure 3 5/8 by 6 7/8, and I'm just using a little bit of that Mowed Lawn Distress Oxiding just on the edges, just to bring it in together with the cardstock a little bit more. Fold and burnish all the score lines, and see the 3/4 of an inch of the score line on top of the clutch bag. I'm folding them both ways because they will be acting as the closure and they will be flapping back and forth this way and that way, so it's just safer to fold them both ways. So these 2 pieces that will go onto the sides of the clutch bag, I'm cutting away the little corners on the bottom on the 1-inch flap, and then just little wedges on the top of the 2 1/2-inch sides, and I'm just going to do the same on this other side. Just a little wedge again. And now I'm going to fold and burnish the score lines, 1 for the bottom flap and the 2 on the sides. Same on this one. And then just very gently I'm kind of going to pinch in that middle score line that we scored down to the 2-inch mark-ish, somewhere there. Just gently pinch it in. It will fall into place once the clutch bag is all put together. Now just adding a bit of glue to those 1 by 1 inch tabs, and I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the clutch bag, just making sure the score line lines up perfectly with the bottom of the side of the bottom of the clutch bag even. And the same on the other side, and just making sure it's perfectly lined up as well. Now taking the 2 pieces that measure 1.5 by 7 inches, and I'm just peeling the backing of the tapes only on one side of the cardstock. Add a little bit of liquid glue as well. It will help me put this perfectly into place. And I'm not going to peel the backing of the other side just yet. Going to do this exact same thing on the other side, peeling it back, adding a bit of liquid glue and gluing it onto the outside of the top flaps. Now I'm going to be using magnets. For this one I'm going to use 4 magnets, 2 on each side. I peel back the red tape on one side and I'm going to add 2 magnets, 1 at each end, in about 1 inch in from the end of the cardstock. And now I'm going to cover those up again with a bit of red tape just for extra security so they don't fall out. I'm sure they wouldn't, but this is just me. I like to add a bit of an extra and glue it down. Make sure I press it down with my bone folder very well. Snap the other two into place, just checking if it's the right placement, adding a bit of a glue again, and this will just now mark the placement where those magnets should be going. Glue them over there, add a bit of a red tape on top of them just to secure them down. And then I can glue that flap down as well, the same way I done it on the other side. Just peeling the tapes back and just make sure it will be all glued down nicely and securely. Now I'm just going to add a little glue to those 1/2 inch tabs just to glue it onto the side of the clutch bag. I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And then these 2 tabs I can do all at the same time to this side of the clutch bag. Just like so. Adding plenty of glue, I want this to be nice and secure. With my bone folder, I just make sure that the glue is spread out properly, and now I'm just making sure everything's nice and square, just out of shot there for a bit, but it's just really me checking that everything sits nicely in there. Gluing on the pattern paper would be much easier if I'd done that before assembling the clutch bag, but hey, I had to make it harder on myself, didn't I? Anyway, it goes on quite smooth, so no problems there at all. Now, I'm just going to take from my scrap drawer just a thin strip of metallic gold or even mirror gold cardstock, and I'm just going to glue it on, kind of conceal just some of the fold lines in there or even the cut lines where we added that top flap. And I think it just adds a very lovely detail in there as well. Now I'm going to take a couple of the poinsettias, some leaves, just the same way we've done earlier on, and I'm going to glue them onto the clutch bag. Now this is me just trying to decide which sentiment to use. There are so many lovely ones, so I decided to apply foam pads to the ones that I've chosen, and I also decided to go with this lovely frame. It's like a cushion-like frame, and now I'm sorry I'm out of shot gluing on the poinsettias. I'm just using hot glue gun for that. Now I'm trying to layer up these two together, the background kind of frame and the eat, drink and be merry sentiment, and I'm adding a bit of a glue to it too, and just adding it onto the right hand side of the clutch bag. So, and our gorgeous gift sets are ready. Just look at that, how beautiful they look together. Now the purse will fit perfectly inside the clutch bag. I'll show you now. But of course you can add, as I said, a small present, but I think this is a wonderful way of presenting money or gift card, which normally wouldn't be presented in a very festive way. I think this is perfect. The red one in there says Merry and Bright. And just to contrast the little purses, I switched the papers. For the red one I used the snowflakes and hearts, and for the green ones I used the poinsettias. And here are the 2 male wallets, bit out of shot. Until my videoing skills improve a little bit more, it was just easier for me to add some pictures for you here to see of all the projects that we made today. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you did, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Every single interaction helps my channel grow. Thank you so much for all the support. I will be coming back with a lovely tutorial using this exact same digital paper pad, creating a lovely fun fold card. I hope to see you back then. Until then, bye!